What's up, Instagram?
What's up, Instagram? What's up, YouTube? All right, guys, Scobuff Sports here. CU post-game show live from Folsom Field.
Doozy.
My name's Trent Finnegan, Baylan Wysuph, Patrick Dawson. And I thought that we were going to be talking about a disappointing game. CU didn't show up to win, and here we go with some amazing fourth-quarter comeback, heroics, missed field goal, Hail Mary. I don't even know where to start for tonight. Let's start with the Hail Mary. What?
Crazy. That's the thing about if you're a diehard Colorado Buffaloes fan, you love and you hate the team, but it's those plays like that somehow keep happening to us that make you come back and watch the games and just fall in love with the team all over again. So crazy miracle play, but I'm glad we ended up getting that.
And it was crazy. Shedeur Sanders, he got strip sacked. It looked like Baylor could have recovered it for a second, and then they had the false start that induced a 10-second runoff. They wasted so much time on the clock, and then they followed it up with one of the craziest Hail Marys. I mean, all you can really compare that to is the Miracle of Michigan 1994.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that's insane. One big thing I do want to talk about is the special teams. The special teams was atrocious tonight for the Colorado Buffaloes. Baylor had a plethora of good punt returns. They had a 100-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. CU had to opt into pooch kicking their kickoffs in the second half, and it gave Baylor the ball at the 40-yard line.
Which they could have just kicked it out of bounds.
If you want to beat a team like Oklahoma State, beat a team like Utah, you're going to have to win in all three phases of the field, and this team didn't get it done on special teams tonight. What needs to change for this team on special teams going forwards?
I mean, in my mind, it kind of this can even be applied to all of the faces of their game that need improvement, but that's just discipline, right? It was a ton of small mistakes from the special teams that would lead to, catastrophic, really bad plays like that punt return for the touchdown. So, yeah, I mean, it's a lot of small things. Punting, the kicking wise, having to resort to the squib kicks is that's just terrible. It can't be that bad this early in the season to resort to squibs.
And what's ridiculous with the pooch kick strategy was I saw a tweet about it, and I've talked about it a little bit with Trent off the air. If you kick it out of bounds, it comes out to the 35 or the 40. I think the NFL is the 40.
Yeah.
And then
I think college.
It's
whatever it is. It's
less than what they were giving up.
They
could have just kicked it straight out of bounds.
Yeah.
Not even tried for a touchback. They could have literally kicked it 5 yards to the right, just out of bounds.
Yep.
A boot to the student section. And they would have been down away from, farther back than when they were starting, and Jace Feely wouldn't have had to get involved in a play and jack up his knee like he did, which we didn't. No one asked about it in the presser. We'll wait for updates on that, but he was ruled out pretty quick.
Dion did say something. He said that he couldn't believe how they don't have a kicker that can kick it out of the back of the end zone yet, and the other teams do. And he has 3 scholarship kickers on the roster: Palazzo, Mata, and Feely. Not a single one can kick it.
I didn't know Palazzo was on scholarship.
I hope he isn't, but we'll see. I don't know.
In baseball, people talk about the Coors tax with home runs because the altitude up here.
Yeah,
and it's just
free.
It carries the ball.
It should be free.
And it's ridiculous and it's completely unacceptable to be a Power 5 program at the level of altitude that there is in Boulder and to barely be getting the ball over the goal line. I mean, they had 119 yards on kickoff returns, a touchdown, and that's just on 3 kick returns.
Yeah.
That they had they averaged 40 yards a return. And
it's ridiculous.
That includes those pooch kicks.
Yeah.
And so it's just ridiculous how bad the special teams was today. Mark Vissett, he had some good kicks.
He had some good
punts.
some good
placements, but the cover team.
I'm not going to put that on Vissett. He kicked the ball well.
They were just falling apart. Big return on almost every punt. And that's the reason this game was as close as it was because of special.
Think about it, because they got the ball at the 25-yard line for a punt return. They got a touchdown from a kick return. They got the ball at the 45 from another punt return.
And then even here at the end of the game, the up 7, they got the ball at the 25 when Mark punted from the back of the end zone.
Yeah.
And the Buffs were just incredibly lucky that they missed the field goal. It was soaking rain. Left hash was a 45-yarder.
Yeah, 45-yarder from the left hash.
I mean, they gave them the ball at the 25 with 4 minutes left.
Yeah.
Because the punt team was so bad.
So, kind of switching topics a little bit, but, it's true. Baylor lost this game.
Yeah.
Off their own
100%.
mistakes, Baylor lost this game. Of course, you look at that kick, but even, when it goes into overtime, you have to look in these like first half possessions, because if that can change, like one score changes the game like drastically. It's not going into overtime. So even going into the first half, Baylor just had a ton of like silly miscues. Like they'd have a bad throw or a bad penalty, and obviously, of course, it was a missed kick at the end. But Baylor definitely had the opportunity to win this game a couple different times.
Next topic I want to bring up on the defensive side of the ball is Cameron Silman-Craig. He had 13 tackles tonight, 10 solo tackles. Doing that from the safety position isn't easy.
Yeah.
Since that second half in Nebraska, he has been a possessed man, taking over this defense, leading the way. And Travis Hunter doesn't get to force that fumble at the end of the game if Cam Silman-Craig doesn't make the tackle at the 2-yard line. He has been amazing so far, and he has been leading this defense. And do you guys have anything to add about him? Because I'm just so impressed with his performance.
He's not a big dude.
No.
But he tackles like a big dude.
He
Like,
hits.
he's 5'9".
He hits.
I think $180 or something like that. And he hits like he's 6'2", 220. Like he should be playing in the box.
Yeah.
Like losing Shiloh, he's one of those enforcer safeties that can kind of come up and make a play against the run. Exactly. I mean, he's got that title for a reason. And you're maybe a little bit worried. I mean, Silman-Craig played really good last year. It's not like he's a nobody. Like he's not coming off the third string in the depth chart. But for him to just slide directly in to Shiloh's role after he got hurt in Nebraska and ball
out,
and he's been almost faultless, especially after the first game of the season. He kind of was a little shaky versus NDSU for a little bit, and then he got hurt, and they didn't really see him, and the defense almost got better. After. I don't know. I don't want to call that a causation, but the correlation was there.
Yep.
And then he comes in the second half of Nebraska, and he's on a different level. And now
he had 11 tackles.
Yeah, now he's arguably the best player on that side of the ball, other than Travis Hunter, of course.
Yeah, he's been crazy. There's a comment in the Instagram, one of the greatest endings in CFB history. So I'm not gonna talk about CFB history. I'm gonna talk about Buffs history, and what comes to mind. So tonight, I don't want to like name this something. Like, I don't want to name this something, but we'll say tonight.
The fairy tale at Folsom.
That's actually not bad.
Wow. The
fairy tale at Folsom.
Patrick Dawson.
Miracle at Michigan, 1994. The fifth down in 1990.
These are all time.
I'm trying to think of other. Like,
Auburn's gonna win the football game.
No, I'm talking CU. I'm just talking CU.
Okay,
I'm not talking CFB. You could say
CSU last year, arguably.
I'd say that's up there.
CSU last year. You could say 2019 Nebraska.
Yeah, I was at that game.
Do we talk about Cal just because of that whole season? Cal 22.
That wasn't a catch. The Cal catch in 2022 was not a catch. In case anyone was wondering, that team should have gone 0-12. They got bailed by the refs and went 1-11. Go watch it. It's not a catch. I'd probably put this third behind the Miracle of Michigan and the fifth down play, but I would put this ending third.
Okay. So what about in just the Coach Prime era? Is that the greatest?
This is the greatest game.
Oh yeah, it's that
game?
Colorado State, and I think that Colorado State. I mean, yeah, the Jimmy Horn touchdown was like 40 yards, and he broke that tackle, but he that wasn't his time expired. There was
time left.
Yeah, that wasn't in the pouring rain as Shador's rolling to his left.
That one play wasn't do or die. If it's incomplete, they got another.
I'm still putting the Miracle of Michigan first.
And
all time Buffs endings, and I'm going Miracle of Michigan, fifth down, and Fairy Tale at Folsom, coined by Patrick Dawson.
Yep.
Everybody.
Here we go.
Fairy Tale at Folsom.
So yeah, and then we haven't talked about him yet. We've got to talk about Travis Hunter. Do we have his final stat line?
Yeah, we got it.
I think it was 7 for 130, and then the forced fumble.
That play, the catch that got overturned. So I guess it.
I forgot about that catch. Yeah, that PI that got overturned.
Just how close it was.
So he had
unbelievable.
7 catches, 130 yards on offense, 10 targets. And then on defense, this does not have defensive stats.
He had 2 amazing tackles one-on-one in the flat that your wide receiver one should not be making, but he's making. And then he had, obviously,
3 solo tackles.
Puts the shoulder right on the ball on the 1-yard line, knocks it out, seals the game. he has to be in everyone's Heisman conversation. I don't care that
Without a doubt.
I don't care that this CU team is not as good as Miami. It's not as good as Georgia. It doesn't matter. He's that good of a player. Where
if he was on any other team in the nation, he'd be putting
It's
up these
guaranteed.
numbers.
Yeah.
It's guaranteed that he's the Heisman if he's anywhere else.
Yeah.
And, I mean, there's nobody else in the country that can do what Travis Hunter can do.
No.
If you want to talk about, well, there's a better receiver out there, there's a better cornerback out there, there's guys you can put in that conversation. But to be doing specifically what Travis Hunter's doing, there's no comparison because this has never happened before. Not in the modern era of football. Not since there was color on television. I mean, even Deion Sanders, when he was in the league, I mean, it wasn't like he was playing every snap both ways.
Yeah, he
was coming in for packages.
It was design packages.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so for Travis to be a starter and play, like he doesn't come off, he only comes off the field for special teams. Those are the only plays he comes off. I remember down there on the far side at the 10-yard line, Shedeur threw that hospital ball up to him late, and he took a crazy hit.
Yep.
And then Amarian Miller came on the field to sub in for Travis after that hit, and Travis yelled at him, said, "Get off the field."
Yep.
Like, I'm staying on the field
Yep.
for this.
It's a mentality thing. He's different. He's NFL ready also, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Here's a stat for you. So remember beginning of the season when they said Trevor Woods was the starting middle linebacker?
Yep.
Trevor Woods tonight has as many tackles as Jace Feely did and as Charlie Offerdahl did. They all had one tackle apiece.
Woods did? I mean, he's not the starter.
The one tackle was a big
I was gonna
tackle.
say,
That was
that
that
was a big-
shoestring
yeah,
tackle.
Exactly, and it saved a touchdown. And he also had some pressures on the inside, rushing up the A-gap. But, like, it's clear. This is Levante Bentley. This is Nikai Hill-Green up in the middle.
Yeah, those two are monsters. And even though they didn't have the same impact they had against Colorado State, those two were two men possessed. So, and then we haven't talked about the running game either. 3 rushing touchdowns for a Deion Sanders-led Colorado football team. 2 for the freshman Michael Welch, his first 2 of his career, and Shedeur Sanders had 1 on a read option early in the game. I wouldn't say they got the run game going, but at least in goal-to-go
They made the plays when
situations,
it mattered.
being able to not be one-dimensional in a goal-to-goal situation and still have that run threat, I think is very important for this team. And you saw Welch. Welch is a bowling ball down inside the 5-yard line. It is insane how powerful he is.
So these numbers do include Shedeur Sanders as a rusher and also include the sacks he takes. So they're not exactly true.
College football.
But it still has it here that we finished with 2.2 average rushing yards per attempt, which is still not good at all. And I mean, it was really based around Shedeur Sanders today. Like he
made
flushed
some
out of the
plays.
pocket, and obviously not all of them can work out. But when he got space, he definitely took advantage of it. So,
And and even for him, like he said in the press conference, this was not his best day.
No,
it wasn't
that
even
was
close.
not-
He
that was
missed
not a
some
good
throws.
game.
He took some sacks. It looked like he was just lethargic at
Deep
times,
in the third quarter, his completion percentage was the low 50s.
which is terrible for him, averaging 70 this year.
Yeah.
But down the stretch in that fourth quarter, especially with his legs, he really stepped up and made some plays, scrambling, extending plays, rolling out of the pocket. And, obviously he's a pocket passer. He's not a dual threat, but he showed that when you need him to, he can unlock that next dimension and use his feet to scramble. But he's going to have to be better if they want to win in the bounce house next week at UCF.
Yeah.
You thought Folsom Field was loud tonight? The bounce house at UCF, go look up the bounce house in Orlando, Florida. That place gets rocking for UCF. And they're going to have to be locked in. Also, the false starts on the offensive line at home.
It was ridiculous.
See, that's the thing. It's just some discipline stuff. Like if we clean up those small mistakes that lead to big problems, this team is so dangerous. And in my mind, on a good day, can beat really, really good teams.
Yeah, and I want to talk about Pat Shurmur. I honestly was not as depressed after this game.
No, he ran GH counter in the second quarter,
12
and I was
personnel.
so happy. He ran a lot of 12
I mean,
personnel.
I would say it was at least double digits.
When I saw both the guard and the H-back pull, I almost cried tears of joy at not having to watch inside zone split for the 50th time this season.
Yeah, and you look at the run play. I mean, even without, I think Shedeur was only sacked once or twice. Even without those, the yards per carry is probably still under 4, which is you'd like it to be
it's
higher.
probably 3 to 5.
But at the end of the day, to just show that they're gonna play different packages is just that's the light at the end of the tunnel for me.
Mhm.
Because when you looked at CSU, they ran 12 personnel once, and it was a run up the middle, and it got stuffed because the defense knew it's 12 personnel. They're going to run up the middle. They would never run 12 personnel in any other situation. So for Shermer to do it a lot, and not even just to do it and run the ball, but to do it and pass out of 12 personnel.
Yeah.
He did it a few times, and
The Sam Hart passing game
the one
needs
the
to
flat.
stop.
Yeah,
That
I mean,
needs to stop.
it's
but
not ideal.
I
for
like
the
the
passing game,
creativity.
but to show the willingness to finally change something, because they haven't changed anything for the
So-
last year and a half. It's been a lot of 10 personnel, and with Mikey it was 11, but
That's 10.
that's 10 because Michael Harris is just a big receiver.
Mhm.
So I was really happy with what I saw in terms of the packages from Pat Shermer.
Looking at this, so through the first 3 games, not including this one, this team was pass heavy. Like it was like 60 to 40 were just passes, and I mean it was working, so it was good. It was good play calling, but going over play calling. Today we ran 42 running plays and 41 passing plays, so that is
Great balance.
dead even right through the middle. And
Yeah.
I mean, I think if we had a little more production in the run game, that would have like really sealed the deal with everything. But I think I like how balanced it was today,
And
how
and
they
something else I liked was they went into a lot of 21 personnel today, which they hadn't
The
done
split
before.
back.
Split backs,
Yeah.
it was really 20 personnel. They didn't have a tight end on the field. But it was mostly Draylon Miller, the true freshman, and Isaiah Gustave, the transfer, next to Sanders in the backfield. And that was able to create a lot of traffic coming out of that backfield, have an extra blocker that's going downhill instead of sideways. And they had success on it. They ran it on that first touchdown drive a lot. They went away from it, went back to it in the third quarter. But again, having creative formations like that, you just got to make the defense think. And they finally did that tonight after not really doing that for the first 3 games this year.
Yeah, I think working through that more, it can be insanely effective if we keep kind of practicing that, like sprinkling in just a completely different play style every once in a while. I think that can be really good and keep defenses on their toes.
Yeah, the personnel, the variety, it's like I kept saying throughout the radio broadcast, which unfortunately you guys didn't get to listen to. But
Unfortunately.
every split fraction of a second that the defender doesn't know for sure what's happening is a fraction of a second that your guy's pushing in a direction that the other guy's not countering. So when you've got 12 on the field and you only run it once or twice so they know it's a run, there's no guesswork in there. They see the 12 and they know it's a tell. But for them to come out, run 12 a lot, run 20 a lot, and you've got that traffic like you talked about, when you can run basic inside zone out of 20 and just have the other running back just kind of split block the other way.
But he's going downhill instead of when they run it with smalls, he's going lateral. You
and
get more
also
momentum, and it worked
the
tonight.
fact that he's crossing in front of the quarterback, it makes that linebacker have to think for just a half second which one of them's getting the ball. And so he doesn't just get to go downhill straight up and just plug that gap. He's got to kind of look for a second and say, okay, is this guy getting the ball or is that guy getting the ball? And that's something that Shermer had not had in the game plan for the last year. It's been, we're going trips right, we're going spread with 10 personnel, and we're just going to run inside zone. We didn't see anything like duo or trap. We saw counter like a few
It
times.
was just there wasn't even any power. It was just counter and zone split. But
yeah.
hey, I'll take counter. You
got
gotta take baby
Yeah.
steps. We'll take a little GH counter here and there, but well, maybe next week we can unlock a little power O action or something. And then if we're really feeling frisky against Kansas State, run a little duo.
Get some trap going.
Whoa.
Something else they did tonight too is they would bring Will Shepard. They'd have him in trips, or has the lone guy opposite trips. And they would bring him across, and that would create more misdirection as well. They ran a read option off of that in overtime or in the fourth quarter.
It was
late.
overtime.
It was overtime.
It was down when.
Yeah, and he got that 6-yard carry. And it's just creativity like that. But yeah, definitely probably Pat Shermer's best game of the season, play calling wise. And it's like these first 3 games also they weren't substituting at all. And tonight you saw a lot of Draylon Miller, you saw a lot of Amarian Miller, and you saw a lot of Terrell Timmons. Even though I don't think he had a catch tonight, he was on the field a lot. And Omarion Miller,
that touchdown.
He's good. It sucks. I hope he stays for next year because he's going to have a big role next year. I hope he stays. But he's good, and you saw it. Everyone saw it. He had the first catch of the season, 58 yards. I have no idea how he stays up on that play. And then he houses it.
It was one of the craziest. I mean, in a game where it ended the way it did, that was still one of the craziest plays of the game.
100%.
So I think, I honestly think his skin might have grazed the top of the grass, like
Too late.
ever so slightly.
It's late.
But it was like
Yeah.
it was like
Not,
I mean
not
that was
enough video.
that was probably as
evidence over.
close as you could possibly
Yeah.
be to being down without actually being down.
Yeah, I
Like-
agree. Well, that replay on Fox, I mean, Dean Blandino, I mean, he tried calling him down, but that was close. And they said stands. They didn't say confirm. They said stands, which means they didn't have enough evidence to overturn it. Had to go with the call on the field. But, yeah, still, that's phenomenal play.
I mean-
And remember that USC game last year? He went off in that game, and then he didn't really get the spotlight after
Yeah.
that. So maybe they'll keep subbing more. And you could see it when they sub more. Guys get better blocks on the outside.
Yeah.
Guys run better routes on the outside. I get it, how good those top four are, but you need to substitute. You need to keep your guys fresh. And I
if you've
think
got
that they
6
did a great
guys-
job at doing that tonight.
If you've got 6 guys that can play snap, I mean obviously you're gonna have your favorites, Travis, Lejante, Jimmy, they're gonna get the majority. But if you can get guys like different guys on the field and make the defenders read different players, they're not going to get into the same rhythm that they can if it's just the same. They're coming out in the field, it's the same guy in front of them as it was the last 10 drives of the game.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I was like going back to that Miller play at the end of the first half, like putting in perspective again when a game is tied and going into overtime. Like we were essentially, if his leg was down, like who knew if we would have ended up scoring on that drive
Mm-hmm.
and like wouldn't have ended up winning the game. We're like inches away from losing, but yeah.
We got anything else to add from this game? I think we covered most.
I mean, I think we could talk about this game for 3
we
hours.
could talk about this game for 3 hours, but I think from a big point standpoint,
I think that's about it.
I think that's about it. Yeah.
Start off the Big 12 gauntlet.
Yeah, first Big 12 game since
Yeah, it
2010.
Only gets more.
Actually, I
difficult
do
from
have one more thing. Uniform thoughts. What do we think?
I loved them.
here. Love.
I loved them.
Loved them.
I thought the little touch of modernity with the
Yeah.
flat irons in the sleeves, but also the classic look.
Yeah,
I love
the
for
classic
like
look.
homecoming week. Yeah.
Gotta
back in
wear
the Big
gotta
12.
wear gold, black, gold for homecoming
Yep.
week. The gold stripe on the side. I thought it was a great uniform. I also thought Baylor's uniforms were. I mean, it's pretty
all
easy.
white.
It's pretty easy to have a good uniform if you're doing the all white.
Yeah, it's
You see
hard to mess up all
Stormtrooper.
whites. Yeah.
But it was a good uniform. I'd rate this uniform matchup a 8 out of 10 for sure.
That's a solid rating.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd argue with that.
Yeah.
It's just fine. Yeah.
So
I think that ruling stands.
now, okay, and then do you think next week? So they're gonna wear white jerseys. Do you think that they're gonna wear black pants, or do you think they're gonna go white out?
What have they
again?
worn this year?
They've worn white and gold, gold, white, gold, and then Stormtrooper
black
all white.
and all black.
Well, this is just for next week, which is a road game.
Oh, you're talking about just road uniforms.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean,
I
they've got to switch something up. Get some black pants out there.
I remember I really liked the look we did Oregon, where we did white jersey and then like
Gold pants,
Gold
right?
pants.
Yeah, but that was the Nebraska uniform. That's they've gotten blown out
Yeah, that's
both times
cursed.
they've worn
That's
that.
right.
That's cursed.
I think you
That
got to
is-
do
they're
the
not,
black
they're not allowed
helmet.
to wear
Good
that.
point.
You got to
That's
do
a
the black
great
helmet
call.
with the gold face mask, the ASU look
Mm.
from last year. I thought. Was one of their
Oh,
best
with the black
uniforms.
pants,
Yeah.
maybe they'll bring that back. That was a really good look, those face masks. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's all that we have for tonight.
Buffy's get the
Buffs win 38-31 in one of the craziest games
Great.
Folsom Field has ever seen.
Gonna get some press box pizza.
We're going to get some press box pizza and go home here. Thank you guys for tuning in here. Scobuff Sports for our Instagram Live people. If you want to hear, I know that on Instagram Live it looks like we're holding these microphones. You can't hear us. Our friends on YouTube, they can hear us. You gotta join in on the YouTube channel. But we're gonna start doing this all the CU home games. We're gonna have a nice pregame show and a postgame show for you guys,
Yep.
keeping you up to date on Colorado Buffaloes football. But for now, for Scobuff Sports, for Baylan Wysuph, for Patrick Dawson, my name is Trent Finnegan, and you guys have a good rest of your night.